So this is a test stream to see. So this is a test stream to see how well this does. So I'm gonna go ahead and shift F1, F2. I should be able to see my screen here in a minute. There we go. And I'm gonna go ahead and make this a little bigger. Everybody can hear me. All right, so today what we're going to be doing is there's an echo going on here. Okay, there we go. So today what we're going to be doing, and this is a test stream because I'm supposed to be working right now, so this is never going to see the light of day, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway. So today what we're going to be doing is we've created a test database here on an Azure subscription. It's my own personal subscription. Excuse me, I had a chat with Mike, Big Mike, and we agreed that he's going to stand up some kind of an application, front-end application using Angular, and I was going to develop the middleware and the server-side code for this database, and it's going to be hopefully very simple. I decided I was going to use, obviously, C#. Obviously, I'm a C# guy, and I'm going to use a couple of different libraries. I'm going to use one library called Dapper, obviously, for the ORM work. And then I'm also going to use another library called Swagger. So let's go over here and let's see what we need to do to create a Swagger application. So I'll just right click here and say Firefox, and we're going to Google create a new Swagger API, C#. Okay. FedEx dude outside my house here. So we can use this in swag API.ASP.NET core app, or we'll use the most recent right here. And it shows that Swagger or OpenAPI is a language agnostic specification for describing REST APIs. So what an API is it stands for Application Programming Interface, and it's just one way for your program to talk to another program via code. And so it says it allows both computers and humans to understand the capabilities of REST API without direct access to the source code, and it minimizes the amount of work needed to connect decoupled services, meaning two separate services, and it reduces the amount of time needed to accurately document a service. So there's two OpenAPI implementations. There's Swashbuckler and there's InSwag. I'm going to use Swagger in Swag. So I'm not going to go into all of this, but this is just the OpenAPI specification of what a Swagger document would look like. Just to kind of give an idea, your Swagger document at the top would be the title of your API and the version, and then you'd have your paths, which would be your methods. So this is a get or a, and if you think of it this way, an API, a Swagger API in this instance is just going to be regular CRUD or CRUD operations we've talked about before in a database. And so it's going to be create, read, update, delete. So a get is a read when you talk about an API. If I'm doing an API get, then that's going to be me selecting records from a database and returning those records. And then here is another get, and what we're doing is we're passing a parameter of an ID. This is a get, a put, and the delete right here. And this is just a regular get with no parameters. And then we've got some some components here. We have a to-do item, which is our model. And then what's going to happen is inside of this model, we have an ID, a name, and a Boolean value that we would be passing in to the service, to the API service. And down here, you can see what it would look like. There's this nice little web-based interface that you can go to once you get your API kind of built out. It's really cool to use. And then you can test using this page as well. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to click on the in swag here. Let me make sure I'm looking at the right thing here. Blah, blah, blah. In swag API. Yes, I think this is it here, is it not? That seems a little bit more in depth than what I'm looking for here. There's an easier page to do this here. I think it's this one right here. Yeah, there we go. I think it's this one. Yeah, so it's really easy, real step by step. And so what we'll do, and this actually uses Swashbuckler, it looks like too. Let me see. Make sure this is the right one I'm looking for here. Yep, these are APIs, blah, blah, blah. Let's erase API client. Okay. This looks a little different than what I'm used to here. The one I wanted to look at here. Okay, so package installation, you install Swashbuckler. Yes, this is one. Okay, so this is the page after our overview that we looked at. So the first thing we need to do is we have to understand that this Swashbuckler is just a bunch of different libraries of class libraries of objects that perform all of the code for us. So we don't have to go out there and do a bunch of alteration and crazy manipulation of everything. There's a Swagger, that's the model, and it exposes the Swagger documents as JSON endpoints. And so that's basically that page that we looked at before. It makes this page here, the APIs and all that kind of stuff, it takes that information and it creates our API URLs that will be up here, so that you would like enter at the top of your screen here. The generator will take your document that I just showed you, and it grabs information from your routes, controllers, and models. Models being the copy of our database, and I have the database that I created over here along with a table that we'll get to in a minute. And then finally we've got the UI, which then displays the Swagger page for us that allows us to do all the testing and everything else. It's actually really smooth. So let's just follow the instructions here that we've got, and let's go from there. So it says Swashbuckler can be added with the following approaches. We'll go into the Package Manager console window, go to View, Other Windows, Package Manager console. But first, before we get too far down the road, we need to create a web API application. So let's see here. How do we do that? Okay, so let's go over here to our Visual Studio. I am currently needing to get myself signed into my GitHub. Should be this one here. Go away. And then down here, hopefully, eventually, it'll pop up here and it'll show me that I'm on a, bam, here we go. And let me make sure that I am not, I don't have any changes to push up. These are changes that I thought I had shelved, so I'll just shelve these changes. Not shelve, stash. Because these are changes I don't really care about, so I'm just gonna stash all those changes and get rid of those there. And they'll go away here in a minute. What's this here? Same thing here. We'll stash this change too. I don't want to delete anything here. I will delete that because I know I'm not doing anything with that one. That should go away. Well, that's because it doesn't exist anymore. I don't think that exists anymore. Master branch. Let's see if I can do that from there. Ignore that local item. I'll just do nope, undo. I don't want to do that. Why it's still showing up there. Okay, so I'm going to create a new repository or a new branch. And actually, let me manage this other branch because this branch, I don't need this branch anymore. There we go. Just pull in from our master branch. Here we go. You know what? I've got a couple of pull requests over there that I need to do something with. Didn't I just changed this yesterday? So. I won't worry about that. This is a different one here. So yeah, we're going to create a new branch. And this branch name is going to be called Person API. should actually call it branch 1.1. Branch 1. Create that. Okay, now what we're going to do next is we're going to create a new solution. Project here. And this project is going to be a web-based project. So it's going to be a .NET Core web application. Come over here and we'll say that this one is going to reside on the web. How do I want to do that though? Let's see. Do I have a cloud one? What's this cloud one here? Yeah. Say next. We're going to call this person API. Change the repo to there. Say create. And it's going to ask us what kind of .NET Core web app that we want to use here. So we're going to use a .NET Core web application. It's going to be for web API. It's going to be configured for HTTPS, which is Secure Hypertext Transfer Text Protocol. Secure. We're going to change this. How do I want to do this? We're going to put an API key in there, so we won't put any authentication there. And this is going to be web API, not an app. And we'll just say create. Make sure that this enable open API support is checked. Say create. And it'll do its magic there. Now, right out of the box, these web applications are designed to run on your local machine, as long as you've got a machine that can run Visual Studio and IIS. So what's going to happen is, once it creates, by default, I can just come out here and run this thing, and it'll automatically run for me. So I click start, and it'll start a small little test server down here. Eventually, you'll see something pop up down here. And there's some things we're going to have to change in here to get this thing configured for our API. And we have a build error. And we have to do the Nuget package to generate this. So we got to wait for these Nuget packages. So Nuget packages are basically just a way to store all of the libraries and all of the files that you need to run an API, a .NET Core API. They reside on the server, so whenever you create a new project or solution that is a web API solution, then what it'll do is it has a little configuration page in there, and it has a little setting that says go out and restore all of the Nuget packages that are attached here, so it makes sure that it gets the most recent version of these libraries. Try not to make that too complicated. Don't worry about that aspect of it. So it's going to restore all of these. Clicking things here. No, it shouldn't be it. So I have to wait for this to get done. So you can watch this or take a look at this in the output here, and it says it's finished, so we should be able to rebuild this, and it should not error out on this time. So it's rebuilding the API. Go to Solution Explorer over here. Okay, so if I click this, all of the Nuget packages should be good to go. And it should actually launch my API. this time. And there's the server down there running, my IIS Express server. And here's our Swagger page. So I'm using Firefox, which is why you see this page. So this will pop up a Swagger page for me here momentarily. Eventually. And while that's running, let me go talk about this database here real quick. So this database is just one that's running on my Azure web page, my Azure subscription. It's a database that you have to pay for. It's really cheap, actually, like $5 or $6 a month or something like that. And I've created the table in here for person. In the person's main table, I've just created a list of columns here. Some are nullable, which means they can have no value. Some are required. Those are the not nulls. Let's go back over to our, yes, we're ready to go. Okay, so we have a Swagger API right out of the box, and we can run this if we so chose to. Say get, say try it out, and say execute. And what will happen is it'll pass a bunch of stuff down here. So this stuff is already kind of hashed out for us. What we're going to do is we're going to make changes to this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to configure this to have what's called an API key. So then that way we can lock down the access to this particular API. We're going to parameterize our methods here. So we're going to create not just a get, we're going to create a get, a put, a post, and a delete. And what again, a get is a select statement. A post is when you are inserting a new record. A put, I might have this backwards. A put, the post and put always twist me up a little bit. A put is where you're going to update a record, and a delete is obviously a delete. So we're going to add 3 other web service methods in here, or operations in here. And then down here, you can also see an example of the model that we're going to build. This is the existing one for the forecast model. And if I come over to here and I look in this weather forecast, this is our model in here. You see that? There's our model right there. Date, temperature, Celsius temperature, Fahrenheit, and summary. So if I go back over to Visual Studio, it's date, temperature, Celsius temperature, Fahrenheit, and summary. So this model that we created, we're going to create a separate model, and we're going to configure our model a little differently because we've got different fields, obviously. And there's some other things we're going to put in here just to make it a lot easier for our model to function. So I'm going to stop this. And let's go back over to our Swagger page. And we know we've got this kind of configured here. The other thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to, and I'm going to do it right now before I forget. We're going to have to configure our service to use Dapper. So that means our app settings.json file over here, we're going to have to add a connection string in here as well. And the connection string, like in the previous videos that I've been making, is just the ability for you to get logged into, well, connect to the database with the credentials that you need to. So you need credentials, and the credentials I'm talking about, the credentials that you will be using, it's like a username and a password and that kind of stuff, but that's for the application to get connected to the database. It's not for the individual user to get connected to the database. So the application that we build here is going to use the connection string, and then what's going to happen is anytime a person is hitting this service, it is automatically set up to use the connection string. So it handles all of the connectivity for you. All you have to do is pass it an API key, and then that validates whether or not you can send a request through this service. So that's something else that we'll have to configure as well. So we've got that. We'll also create, like I said, we'll create our class for our model class. One thing I'm going to do to keep this a little bit more organized is I'm going to come over here in this I'm just going to right click on the project down here and create a new folder, and I'm going to call it models. And I'm also going to create one, add a new folder, and call it interfaces, because we're going to have to keep them separate. So we've got that, and this is just some preliminary stuff that we're going to be doing here. Lastly, what we need to do is we need to come over here. Like I said, I've already created a database over here, so you're not going to have to worry about, we're not going to worry about that because I've already done that work for you. But what we probably will do is create 4 separate, we're going to create 4 separate store procedures. And what a store procedure is an easier way to run a query. Now we can do it that way and run a store proc, or we can do it the other way that Dapper will allow you to do it, and that's just by building out the query ourselves. So that's another thing that we'll do, is we'll build out our queries as well. So let me close this, and I'm going to also go on and in my tools, come down here to Nuget Package Manager and say Manage Nuget Packages for Solution. And you'll see the ones that are already installed there. And what we're going to do is we're going to browse for Dapper. And there's Dapper. We're going to come over here, click it, and we're going to install that, and we're going to add that to this particular project. You should get a little box that pops up, and there's some updates that need to happen first here, apparently. What needs to happen there? What's going on here? So it says it needs to update these 3 packages. So, and the reason why is because they're on different versions here. So I'm going to select all of these, and I'll just update these real quick. Hopefully I don't break anything doing this. This always makes me a little nervous. Say accept. And anytime you are going to update a package, you need to recompile your code to make sure it's going to work for you. So let's rebuild our solution and then restart it and make sure it still functions here. And go away. So it says it rebuilt. And let's go ahead and run her and see what happens here. We've got our IIS. So yep, everything seems to still be functioning okay. Let's do our get, try it out, execute U. Yep, it's still pulling back data. So we're good there. Alright, so let's close our window. So we've got our stuff built to this point. One other thing that I think we may need to add, we do need to add, I think. think here. I'm thinking here. I think we need to add Microsoft Data.SQL Client as well. So let's go ahead and add that as well. So let's come down here to Nuget Package Manager again, and we'll add Microsoft Data.SQL Client. And there we go. We'll add you as well. And so what this is going to do, this SQL Client library, except what it's going to do is it's going to handle the connection to our SQL Server, and then we'll use the Dapper ORM to do a lot of the manipulation of the SQL and stuff like that. All right, so we've got it added. I think that's everything. Do another rebuild here. Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and publish this, or push it out to my upload it to my Git repository. This does not need to, I need to stage this here. Stage this one here. The other one needs to go away. I need to find out how to get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and type in a message here. Hold on a second here. Let's see. Added Dapper and other added Dapper. Staged, and I'm going to push that to my main. There we go. Create a quick pull request for it. Yeah. Okay. And I'll do that offline. Y'all don't see that part. Okay, so let's kind of get started here on the building of the easiest part here, and that's the building of the model. So we're going to right click in our models folder and say add class, and we're going to call this class person model, like that. Let's say add, and then there's a few things that we need to do. There's another dependency that we need to put in there, and that's for the data annotations. So let's see if we can't do that ahead of time using system, and that's not it. let's just do it up here. Okay, so what am I doing? There is anytime you are creating a web service API, any kind of a service API, right, be it REST or SOAP or whatever, excuse me, you want to use the annotation that gives you, that creates a contract with your model and the API. I'm probably not explaining this the best way. How do I explain data contract, data member? We'll study that another time. But for right now, what we'll do is we'll do this. We'll do data contract. And in here, let me make this a little bit bigger. And there should be, there we go, for serialization. And what this is for is to deserialize and serialize your JSON from JSON text into your objects for your C# code or whatever code base that you're using. For .NET code, I should say it that way. So our model is going to mirror our database. So let's do this. The easiest way, instead of doing all this alt tab in here, is we're going to right click on here in our person main, say script as, and we're going to say insert or select to, like that. Hopefully I'm still, yep, okay. So all of these columns, I'm just going to copy this right here and come over here. I'm going to put in a comment line there, multi-line comment. Shrink it down just a smidge so I can see everything here. And then when I come down here, I'm just basically going to create variables or attributes of this particular class that mirror this, or fields. I'll call them fields. So let's use the code snippets in Visual Studio. So type the word prop, P-R-O-P, and double tab, and it will automatically put one in there for you. So you have to use the same type of integer of variable. So our ID is going to be 60 bytes long. So it's a string, and it's called ID, and it's 60 bytes long. Okay, so we won't worry about that, the length right yet, but what I do want us to look at is this. Under the data contract right here, which is the model, we're going to create data members for each of these fields. Data member, and we're going to put that, and it's going to be name equals ID. And this is case sensitive. And so what this is if these were all lowercase, because JSON will lowercase everything, it'll camel case everything. I think that's right. Where all of these will be lowercase. Then it's best practice to proper case your variable names and methods and stuff like that in C#, and the compiler will bark at you when you go to compile it. It'll throw it up as a warning. So like if I came in here and I made this a lowercase I like this, it's not gonna like that. It throws a little squiggly in there and it says, hey, you got a rule naming violation. I'm just gonna give you a warning, but you need to uppercase all of your stuff. It needs to start with uppercases. So if your web service has it, or your API has it like this, then what happens is this data member will take your web services field with the lowercase ID and stick it into this uppercase ID field. That's basically what that's going to be used for. Okay, so let's keep going here. We're just going to do this, and actually let's work smarter, not harder. I'm going to use some keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to hit Alt, and I'm using my left mouse key my left mouse button, and I'm just gonna do this. Left mouse button, Alt, and drag down, and just get rid of all of that stuff there. Delete. And I'll get rid of the first one because I've already used it. Delete, 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 delete. Okay, now I'm going to do something very similar to what I did down here. I'm actually going to copy this. I'm hitting Alt and my left mouse key again. Just paste that in there. And then here, I'm going to do the same thing. Copy that. And then paste it down in there. Why am I doing this? I'll show you why. So one of the cool things about C# in Visual Studio is it will automatically format stuff for you. Boom, everything's already formatted and it recognizes these. Now all I have to do is go through and add the data member logic in there. Name equals let's actually go back to our Dapper. Let's rebuild this. And then let's rerun that in a minute. And let's just do some looking here. So our IPI, or IIS launched. Okay, let's look at this model. See how it has everything lowercase? I think it's called camel cased. Everything's, the first letter is always a lowercase there. So that's what we need to, but over here in the weather forecast model, everything's uppercased. So what we're going to do is we're going to lowercase this here. I think that'll do that. I have to play with ID in a minute here. First name will be lowercase first name. This one will be lowercase mid init. Something like that. If you're a dev, you need to get real skilled on the keyboard. It saves you a whole heck of a lot of time, I tell you, if you know how to use a keyboard really well. Last name, DOB, age. We'll have to look at those and make sure that those are what they are supposed to be. Address 1. 2, city, state, zip code, phone 1, phone 2, and email. All right. Got those. Let's save our work there. Now let's go back through and look at our table here. Everything that's a varchar or a char are going to be string variables over here. That's the conversion that we need to look at. But we've got this date right here, this date of birth, and it can't be null. So date of birth, instead of it being a string, date of birth has to be a date time. that. Age also can't be null, and it says it's a tiny int, so we can make that into a byte. Everything else is nullable, and strings. Strings are nullable. Strings are nullable types, so you can null a string. Date times and bytes and stuff like that aren't null. They're not nullable by default, so you have to use a null or a null operator on them. A null indicator is just a question mark, so that shows that this is a nullable date time. But we're not going to make it nullable. Okay, so that is our, we can get rid of this comment line here. That is our person model right there. So we've got that created. So we can close this for now. Let's close our weather forecast. And then what we need to do is we need to consider how we've got our stuff built here. So in the startup, there's some information that we're going to want to change. I think we may be okay, actually. I don't think we don't have to change anything here. Okay, it's already configured. See, this is the beauty of when it's already done for you. Okay, so let's go into program. Nope, we're good there. Now here comes the bigger one here. All right. So we've got a controller. What is a controller? It's exactly what you think it is. A controller just controls how the interaction flows when you hit your web service. Okay. But what we need to do is we need to create our controller, and we're going to change this controller up a bit so that the controller only handles the front end part of it. There's some back end stuff that we need to handle in the background that we don't want to expose to people that use our web service. So we'll talk about that in the next video. It's getting a little late in the afternoon for me, and I'm not sure how long the stream's been going, so I'm gonna go ahead and close her down now, and we'll get back to this. Oh, let's go ahead and commit our changes to our repo here. Actually, I just want this one here, stage those changes, and I'm going to added new model, added data model, person model class. Commit that. Let's push that up. Alright, so that's now in our GitHub account. You know, it's its own it's its own branch, and I can go out there, look at it, and then we can get it pushed over as well. Oh, before I get too down the road here, one of the things that we've got to do is we have to create a test for our API, and actually Swagger will let us do that. Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. I want to make sure I do that the right way. Most of the test projects that I work with are already configured, so there's a lot of stuff, heavy lifting I don't have to do. But let's just actually go ahead and just create a new, so add a new project, This is going to be a test project.
Person API test. Say create. So basically what this is we're going to be able to create like something here. Let's go ahead and yeah, I've got to configure this for test projects, so I'll get back with you on this one. But we're going to go ahead and, oh, it's actually installing some stuff over here. We're going to go ahead and get that configured. Oh, actually, it's done. It's just going too slow. Let me just demonstrate a real quick test on this over here. So first things first, let's go ahead and say show all files here. What we need to do is we need to create a dependency, add a project reference, and it's this person API. Say OK. So that's going to create a reference between the person API over here and the project. And we're going to just rebuild it real quick. I can't do that because this is .NET Core 3.1, so I need to make this one .NET Core. I'm gonna have to look at that one. Yeah, I might have to look at this one here. This is a, okay, so this is a .NET Core 5.1 application, and my test project is a .NET Core 3.1 application. So what I need to do is find a way to make this test into a .NET Core 5, because if you look here and I go down to properties here, see this is .NET 5.0. So actually, I wonder if that'll let me do that. Save that, close that, close that, close this, rebuild. There we go, yeah. So, now let's see if I can add, projects. There it is. Yep, we're good. Okay, so in here, this is a test project, and all it does is it allows you to test your solution over here. So let's say I want to test to make sure that my person model, I can create a new instance of my person, a new object of my person model. So let's come up here. Initialize. Actually not there. That goes into this class here. Actually, no, it goes there. Test initialize. And we have to have a there. Internal. Let's make it public. Public void. And then what's going to happen is initialize tests.
That's because, Alex, you're doing this the wrong way. It goes in here, dummy. I can come down here and call this. There we go. So what this is going to do is all of my methods and everything else are going to go down here for testing. And anything that is in my project that I would reference, like this weather forecast class, if I come in here, this class is a public class, and so since I have a reference to it over on my test, I should be able to reference this. So I can say weather forecast, test forecast. Get set. And there it is right there. There's a reference to the Person API project. If I come over here, I can say this dot test forecast equals actually no, I got that backwards. Backwards because when I come into my program over here, I'm not calling that anywhere. But when I start hitting this logic here in my controller, like right here, I could come up here and create like this right here. This summary is new. It's a read only though. So let's say I come up here and I say, I don't use that. Like I'm doing here, so that I can say this dot test forecast. Call it test, something like that, right? So this is my expected one. That's a model. And what I can do is I can say yeah, I can do it this way too. Instead of doing it that way. I'm used to doing it this way, and then coming in here and then saying date equals now dot date dot date time. Now date, and then I've got to import the system dot. There we go. Summary is just going to be a string, and then over here temperature is going to be an integer, 5 degrees, something like this. Put a semicolon there. can say let's go over here, temperature C, temperature F. And then I can come over here and I can say temperature F equals something. See, that's a variable that is calculated from another variable. And it only does a get. And I can call down here and say var temp F equals temperature F. And now I have to just look at the math here. And if I do some logic here, and I say I take 32 plus let's say 15 divided by 0.5556, and it gives me 84 degrees. Or if I think it's 32. Yeah, I think that math is right. Yeah, I think that math is right. Let me go to the scientific here, right there. So if I take 32 plus 32 divided by 0.5556, it's actually 57. It gives me 89.59 degrees. Okay. So if I come over here and I say, use my math, and I say 32, I'll put a 32 in here. And then let's go back over here to this right here. Summary is just a string. And I'll put hot. Okay. And I really don't need to do all of this over here. I'm putting that date time in there because it can't be null. You can't have null ints for temperature. Summary can be a null. I'll make that a null. So then what I'll do is I can say assert is equal are equal, and I can say temp F, and I'm not really sure how this is going to do this. That's expecting a double. So maybe it'll cut it off at 89. Something like that. We'll see. My math is probably off on that. So we'll rebuild our solution, because anytime you have a test project and you make changes to it, you have to rebuild your entire solution so that the test project can pick up the changes. So that's ready and it's building. Now we'll need to view, oh, it's already over there. Our test explorer should have our test method over here for the weather forecast class test. There we go. Minimize this over here. And what you can do is, if your test blows up, you can debug your test too. So I'm just going to debug the test here. So if I click down here, I'll see my unit test. That's the name of my unit test there. And here's my test weather forecast. The assert keyword is just going to say, I'm going to assume that these two are equal. If they're not, then I'm going to throw an error. This actually might be 90. I think I might round it up, actually. Let's rebuild that real quick. And you don't have to do that because I made a change over here. I can just rebuild the test project. So if I right click on this and say debug, it'll stop there on the breakpoint. F10. And now we have, it is 89. So what's going to happen here, go away, is this is going to blow up on me here because they're not equal to one another. It's going to give me an error. It's going to say this one's this one's 89. You're expecting 89, but you actually got 90 back. So if I stop that, and I come back over and I change that back to 89, and I debug this again. F10. So now my test worked and I get all greens in here. So you want to build yourself a test project so that as you add logic, you can test out that logic to make sure it works. And if it works, then if it works over here, then it should work when you deploy your code. Now, there's no guarantee of that because it's a different environment, but code is code. It should work for you. So, all right. So I've actually made a few changes here that I'm going to go ahead and get pushed up here. So go back to my Get Changes tab here. Close this and close that, and I will take this. And now I'm going to stage those changes. Added test project. See Mike. Smiley face. Commit staged. And then I'll push this up. And there we go. So I have now a project that I know runs that I can have at least one test, valid test in for, a unit test in for. So great. Well, hopefully this finds you well, and yeah, God bless you.